And we are now live. Robin Black, thank you for joining me, brother. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, no sweat, man. It is. Well, people watch things at any time, so it could be Tuesday at noon, but it is Friday at 6 here, and I just finished my day, so I've opened a delicious beverage to share with you.
Good man. Good man. Get drunk on stream. It'll be fun.
Yeah, yeah. I actually don't drink a lot anymore, and marijuana is legal in Canada, and I don't really even smoke that. I'm very, very, very sort of clear and rest and meditation and yoga kind of guy. But on a Friday afternoon, it's a heat wave here too right now. Like it's hot. You're in the UK, so you use Celsius. It's in the 30s and it's wet. So I mostly put this in the fridge so I could do this with it. It's a hot day in Toronto for sure.
Good man. Well, that's calories being burnt for fun, right?
That's right.
body weight,
That's right.
body weight and sweat just dropping off.
Yeah, I could make bantamweight again.
Quality. So for those that are listening that might not know about yourself and who you are and your kind of background, just give yourself like a little introduction. Talk for as long as you want, obviously. Tell us your journey. You know how you got to where you are.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's weird actually when you think about where you are, because I don't think about sort of where I am as much anymore. You know, I see life as always moving. It's a river of constant change. So it's actually nice to be asked about sort of where you're at today. I talk about martial arts. You know, I've spent my life obsessively studying martial arts. There were times in my 20s and early 30s where I kind of went off that path. I still was into martial arts, but it wasn't the primary focus of my life, but it is now. And so I talk about them, I analyze them, I commentate them. I fought as a professional MMA fighter 9 times. I wasn't brilliant. I did win this little belt right here, which was a Canadian bantamweight championship in a small organization. But I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of all of the fights, the disastrous failures, and you have those if you're going to push yourself and challenge yourself. And I'm proud of the little successes too. But yeah, I think the world that we live in, mid 2019 right now, you can follow your passion and your curiosity and whatever you're really into, and you can kind of make a life of it. And my entire life, outside of my wife and my dog and a few hobbies, which are mostly around martial arts, is analyzing martial arts, talking about them, doing breakdowns of technical and philosophical and strategic things about them, and commentating, traveling the world, sitting next to a ring or a cage to commentate fighting. And it's good, like sometimes it's nice to pause for a second and be grateful. It's not. I'm talking to a friend in England that I'm just going to get to know. I'm drinking a cold beer on a Friday afternoon, and I spend my days studying martial arts and telling people about it. I mean, I got it pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not a bad way to make a paycheck, right?
It really isn't. And in my case, this is what I love. But everybody loves something, and to accomplish this idea of making your passion pay your bills and give you comfort and travel and whatever you're into, buying things, whatever you're into, this is doable, but it will require 12 hours a day of work, nonstop, driven, obsessive work. So you might as well do it with something that you love. If somebody loves, NASA or tennis or art or building cabinets or whatever, you can make this your life. It is not out of the realm of possibility. In fact, it's very in the realm of possibility. You just have to cut your costs down to as low as possible and obsessively work, take a part-time job if you need to, and keep going until it's your life. And it sounds really simple. It sounds really easy. And it is easy. Sorry, it sounds simple. It is simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy. It's hard. It's really hard work, which is why you should probably, if you're going to work really hard, 12 hours a day, it should be with something that you're passionately mad about. And that for me is martial arts and the lessons we learn from fighting.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most, like, I think frightening things for me is that you kind of work the majority of your life on this planet, and a lot of people out there work doing something they fucking hate till
Mm-hmm.
63, 64, 65, and it's like then they retire, and they get some
Yeah.
shitty ass pension, and they realise they haven't necessarily achieved anything they've wanted to do, and they
Yeah.
become kind of sad and unhappy about it. And I think that's for
For
me like
sure.
one of my biggest issues is like if I'm doing something I dislike, I want to get away from it as soon as possible and pursue something that's going to bring me happiness because I know I've got to do it for the long run.
That's it. What you just, the 2.5 sentences you said there is the root of what we're all supposed to be doing. It was the 50s, it was North America in, the post-war era. They were like, get a job, get a house, get a nice car, be a citizen. And it was about urging people to act in a certain way to create consumerism. This wasn't built around our happiness. This was built around shaping people to behave a certain way. And there's absolutely no reason you should do a job you hate. And somebody's answer to that will be, well, bro, I got bills. Well, get rid of them. You shouldn't have an expensive truck if doing a job you hate is what's necessary to have an expensive truck. There's no way that truck is worth more than your happiness. Buying a big house, spending a lot of money, like sell all that shit. The life of an artist is a wonderful life. The life of an artist doing the things that you love to do. But these days, that life will lead you to more money anyways, more success anyways, because you're doing what you should be doing. The world doesn't need more mechanics or plumbers or teachers or any specific thing. The world needs more people doing what they're passionate about. That's what the fuck the world needs. And you get rewarded for it if you work hard at it. You can make $200,000 a year buying and selling Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shit and having a YouTube channel about retro Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. You can. Of course, you could take a job you hate to make $70,000 a year to pay for your truck and your house. But if you just instead have a part-time job that's not that important while you build these things, and you only make 23,000 but don't have that shit, later you can have a really good life. It's somewhat simple. It really is. But it seems scary. But the thing that people need to understand is it seems scary because the other thing, this job and this mortgage and all these things, is positioned to you as if it's the stable choice. But it isn't. That's a myth. How many people do you know getting laid off their stable job, their quote stable jobs? It's not stable. It's no more stable than starting your Etsy store, YouTube page, etc. about your Ninja Turtle shit that you're obsessed with. It can be done. I make a really nice living now, traveling the world, sharing with people my passion about martial arts. I'm going next week to Rhode Island, then I'm coming back to Toronto to work in a studio and talk about the UFC. I'm going to commentate on Fight Pass next week. Come back to the studio to talk about the UFC in Toronto on TSN, and then I'm flying to Myanmar, which most people don't even know where that is. It's Burma, to commentate a 2,000-year-old martial art called Lei Wei, which some people call Let Wei, but that's the Western thing. Over time, I'm trying to learn. I need to be able to talk about it historically and culturally appropriate, and because that matters to me. And I'm going to commentate that in Burma, sitting beside a ring in a 38-degree temperature outdoor stadium, talking about this 2,000-year-old martial art of 9 limbs: elbows, knees, punches, kicks, and headbutts. That's what I'm going to do. And it took a long time. I had jobs. At one time I was a hairdresser for many years as a job that I could learn, be good at, gave me the flexibility to pursue the things I liked. But now I do this, and I'm actually, as I say that, even now, where it's been a couple of years of being comfortable and thriving, doing what I love, even when I say it, I just feel tingly, like I can't fucking believe that's my life. I really can't. It's really amazing, and I'm very, very, and that's why I'm super bullish on always trying to tell people they can do it too. I'm not special. I'm some fucking guy from Manitoba, like central Canada, who loved fighting and worked really hard. Like anybody can do it. I'm living proof you can, if you just obsess and work hard enough, you'll probably be able to make the life you want. Technology's there today. The tools are there. You can do it.
People are out there going, what does this guy mean he's not special? He's in the Illuminati, man. That's confirmed. Doing some of those handshakes and shit.
If there isn't, I got this. Actually, there's a guy. So I do work for DAZN, a really cool company. It's a digital company that has, a lot of people know what it is, and some people don't. It's like the Netflix of sports, right? And there was a guy I was working with there, and I do this as my sort of sign off, and it's a throwback. It's a rock sign, it's like the devil horns in 80s heavy metal, but basically it's like shit rocks. I'm an old rocker. That's what I do, right? And that guy was like, dude, I don't want you throwing those, and he was serious, those Illuminati signs on my program. I'm like, dude, like really, it's like Judas Priest rules. Like, I'm an old dorky heavy metal, the rock fan from central Canada. This is what we do. It's not an Illuminati sign, but hey, man, like the world's a weird place.
So obviously, before you became sort of a sports analyst and sort of an MMA analyst, I always struggle to say that word. Pain in the ass.
It is a weird one, yeah.
What was you doing before then? Like, kind of, what was your journey up to becoming a sports analyst? Because I think you was doing rock and things like that.
Yeah. So as a kid, I was an obsessive martial artist. I studied Taekwondo because that's what was available, and also as a kid in the 80s, I was born in 1969. It's mid-July. In less than 3 weeks, I'm going to turn 50.
Don't look
which
it.
is crazy. Thank you. I mean, I trained 5 times in the last 3 days. I was in the gym 3 times with a strength and conditioning coach, and did kickboxing twice. So, maybe and I'm now geared towards like repairing injuries and stuff. So maybe I got a little more time. My wife is only 33. She'll turn 33 a week after me. And so we have time. I hope to have kids. And if I'm going to have a kid at 52 or something, it's my responsibility to be healthy and fit and, eat good. And that's why, I cut down on this delicious beverage is a rarity. Like, I don't smoke marijuana, even though and it's legal here. I feel it actually is very beneficial for a lot of people, but I just, now it's a priority to be fit. But yeah, as a kid in the 80s, martial arts then was about how high can you kick? Can you do jumping spin kicks? Can you do the splits? Can you kick like straight up in the air? Can you do doubles? Can you do Jean-Claude Van Damme? Chuck Norris wasn't the highest kicker, but we liked him anyways. So the Taekwondo was perfect in the 80s. Then, you go through, parts of life is about, you're a different person all the time. We don't always realize that, but we are. It's an old saying, a man can't step in the same river twice, because it is not the same river and he's not the same man, right? You change constantly. You are different all the time. And in fact, you need to be different. It is your responsibility to be different. I feel sad for people when they see somebody and then they're mad at something they did 5 years ago, or 7 years ago, or 10 years ago, because how can they not understand that they're a different person? There's almost, none of your cells are the same as they were when you were younger. It's your job to change, right? So anyways, through changing and the path of getting older and stuff, I started to really be into expressing myself instead of just martial arts, and with music and writing and singing and performing and stuff. So I was in a rock band for many years, and it was fun. It really was. It was an adventure. And today, what I do now is heavily informed by music and art. My view of martial arts is colored by fine art, painting, writing, poetry, these things, which I think is different, because the way that it's been sort of presented in North America since the late 90s is very much as a sport. I don't watch football and baseball and hockey and tennis, and I don't watch any sports. I love art, and I see and share martial arts as a pure art form. And I think that's different. And, over time, sometimes it made people really dislike my work. And lately it seemed to just, maybe because I've softened it, or I've learned more, or I've improved certain things. Now they seem to like it. It seems to be, 80% appreciated, and then 20%, disliked. So, maybe that's a good thing. But yes, so I meandered off into music for some time, and then later came back, changed my life, and started fighting. But fighting for me really was I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to analyze it. All I did was talk about fighting. When people would put fighting on TV, it was only Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg, but in my room, it was me yelling shit. It's just, I feel compelled to talk about what I see. I feel compelled to explain it. I see something, I go, oh my God, that's so amazing. And I need my friends to all understand. And that's what I wanted to do. It's incredible to say. I feel so thankful to say it, but I wanted to do exactly what I'm doing now. But I knew I was a guy who wore eye makeup and leather pants, and I had blue hair sticking out everywhere, and I played like an arrogant rock star character that, you know, that was sort of at least somewhat comedically misogynistic, in a sort of an '80s sort of what would you call it, like an ironic version of an '80s rock star. So, D-list rock star in Canada at best. Although we did tour Europe and the UK a fair bit, lots of times. You and I were chatting earlier about the towns I've been to in England. But yeah, so I meandered off then. But to want to be able to commentate and analyze fighting, and I believed that I had something to offer, but I knew without a shadow of a doubt that there's nobody, the people, the real true stakeholders who had earned ownership of parts of this world were not going to accept me. And so I figured I would have to explore fighting and understand it more deeply than most people who did what I do. And I lost my first fight. So I fought again. And I thought, well, I'll experience winning. And I lost again. And then I won. And then I was like, well, if I win again, it'll be 50-50. And then there was a belt was up. And like all of a sudden, I fought 9 times. And I learned about it in a much more deeply connected, what the essence of it was, what the experience of it was, the fears and anxieties and the truth of it. I don't want to be judgmental, but you cannot analyze martial arts without fighting. You cannot. You can. Oh, sorry. You can, but you're not speaking the truth, because 90% of the truth is only available through the experience. The truth lies in the experience. It's happening in your body and your mind. It is not seen from the third person. So when we try to analyze fights without connecting to some of those truths, those physical and emotional and anxiety and physiological truths, we only say what we see, and what we see is maybe 5 or 10% of it. So now I understand that because I've been both. I've been a guy who didn't fight, who tried to explain what was happening, and now I'm a guy who did fight, and I can compare that. And so, but yeah, it's been a long meandering road. I'm babbling, but it's good. I'm thrilled. I'm a very, very, very grateful human being.
So what was your how did you manage your emotional states when you were fighting? Because obviously you get the nervousness and the anxiety and the, oh shit, I'm going out there to do this. How did you kind of manage that? Because you see UFC pros today, they'll step into the octagon and some of them look so calm and collective and relaxed. And then you do get the ones that prowl around the ring. They're trying to, keep themselves calm. And also you do get the ones that kind of look like maybe they're having a bit of stage fright, but still perform.
Well, it is a spectrum. It's a long, there's a lot of gray in there. There is almost no black and white. I guess the black or white, whichever, the 0 or the 1 would be, I panicked, I cannot get in the cage. That would be the extreme. That would be total, could not do it at all. And I have seen that. We don't see it too often. But I have seen it, in the thousands of fights that I've commentated and been at and stuff. You see it occasionally. And the other extreme would be perfection. But even that one, the guys who seem the most comfortable, when you know what to ask them and they trust you as one of them, as somebody who fights, they will, and you'll be like, dude, you were nervous, eh? And they'll be like, holy fuck, it was terrifying. Like, that's what Jorge Masvidal, after 40 street fights and 50 professional fights, will tell you. He's like, man. But the difference is so fear and anxiety and the physiological sort of indicators of those things, the experience of it. A very common one. If you ever are driving and then something happens and you realize in that moment, like your body reacts to it. You feel a tingling often in the outside of your forearm. That's a common one. Your arms for some reason, but there are physiological ones. So what all that is, heart rate's up, you have to pee 100 times. They all do it at the highest level. Robbie Lawler still is peeing 17 times. He's still having that experience. He may know how to manage it, or one of the biggest strengths that the great ones have is first of all, they just accept it's real and that it's logical, it's rational. Fear and anxiety and that tingling, that nervousness, that rise in cortisol, all of these things that are happening within your body, the tingling, the experience of the mind, all of it, these are rational reactions to an irrational action. So walking in your underpants in front of 16,000 people into a cage that's lit while cameras broadcast you to fight a professional athlete in front of 300,000 people on pay-per-view, that is irrational. Right? That doesn't make any sense.
Fucking crazy.
Like, it's fucking crazy is what it is, right? So you should have those reactions. So the greats have them, and the very first thing that helps them is knowing it's normal. And so that's the powerful thing. Some people, either just find their way through it better, or there's a certain amount of genetics, but most of it is preparation, and then some of it is experience. And when young men and women who fought a lot growing up, or were in extreme sports, or had these like really psychologically, like chemically aroused aspects of fear and anxiety, it feels more familiar. I'll tell you for sure, and he wouldn't be mad at me saying this, I wouldn't expect. Well, I don't know, maybe he would. Nate Diaz is fucking scared when he fights. Jorge Masvidal, like the meanest, baddest of the bad, have that. But they've also done it so many times that they still have the fear, but they walk towards it. And this is a cliche, but all of the greatest things in life are on the other side of fear. And you asked about me. My first fight, I wasn't scared enough, but that's very common. The worst fight, now I also took a lot of punishment in my first fight, a lot. My nose was broken. I had a cut on my eyeball. I had paralysis in the side of my face for like 4 months, from the top of my tooth bisected down my nose, halfway through my eye in like a panel for months. And a lot of abuse, took a lot of abuse. And the second fight was way harder because I knew what was in store. I knew what was there, right? Like, it wasn't a mystery. Your first fight, no matter who you are, somewhere in your mind, you are telling yourself, I'm going to walk out. I'm going to look great. I'm going to feel amazing. The crowd's going to love me. I'm going to do a jumping spin kick. I'm going to knock this guy out. And then the ring card girl's going to jump up on stage and whisper into my ear that she wants to give me a blowjob after. That's how it's going to go. And then they're going to offer me a title shot, and fucking Dana White's going to call. Like, in the back of your mind in your first fight, it is very common to try to tell yourself that story. Give or take, right? Like, maybe the ring card girl didn't offer you to fillet you, or like maybe Dana's not calling, but on some level, it's something. But nobody thinks that in their second fight. Although, I guess if the first one went really well, maybe you would. But my friend Mike Kimball, for example, he knocked this guy out in like a minute. In the second fight, he knocked him out in 5 seconds. So his third fight, I'm pretty sure he was probably thinking that might happen. My first fight, I took a lot of abuse for 7 minutes, and so my second fight, I was terrified. And I actually had, it's great that I had this experience because I understand it. I was not a good game day guy until the very end, until the very, very end. My last fight, I was an excellent game day guy. And there were 1 or 2 others in the middle. But for the most part, the experience of it made me realize the things you do in the gym you cannot do in a fight, and there's many reasons. Physiological, it's anxious, it's the weight of the consequences, but it's also something called the spotlight effect. When people are watching, it's hard to do things. That's true of all of us. So It was hard. It was very difficult, but I'm glad I did it, because by understanding that, and you know, I don't want to judge or project, you know, something negative on anybody, but we often, you know, whether we're fans or people who, you know, do talk about fighting in some other capacity without the experience, they'll often judge the fighter. This guy fucked that thing up. What was he thinking? That's when you hear a lot. What was Chris Weidman thinking when this, you know? And it's like, if you fought, you would never do that. And not because you wouldn't want to be a dick. You wouldn't do it because you'd understand. You'd know nobody watching on the couch of course they don't understand what they're thinking, because they don't understand what they're feeling. They don't understand what the emotion is. They don't understand the reality. They don't understand the, you know, the consequences. They don't understand the process. They don't understand any of it. So you hear that often. People will be like, you know, I don't know what he's doing. Like, why isn't he passing the guard? I don't understand why he's not passing the guard. Well, the simple and gentle answer to that is, of course you don't.
Yeah.
How could you? How could you? Right? Whereas somebody with many fights will say he's taking a rest, or he's feeling anxiety, or he's just happy to have a moment, or his heart rate is going through the thing, or his brain isn't working right now, or he can't. Like, we are in combat. Everything we're doing right now, talking, thinking, feeling, reminiscing, analyzing in regular time, none of that exists. The brain, this is the simplest way to put it. The brain will perform the way it's been programmed to perform if the artist is in an optimum state of focus and arousal. So if we just take those things, so when we work backwards, focus and arousal, meaning you're able to actually focus on the task despite all of the lights and sounds and pressures and people and all of those things, the hard work of being able to actually compartmentalize the task, if you can do that. And arousal, people will make fun of that at times. They're like, oh, I'm not aroused. It's a psychological, it's a term of psychological, you know, up or down. And if you can regulate, if you're too calm, you can't perform, or like you're too hesitant, or if you're too wound up, you're going to run in and get kneed in the head and be unconscious, or any other number of things. Normal reaction, very common. There's a human reaction. So if you're those things, then everything you will do in that fight is a interpretation, your brain's interpretation with the data that it has of what to do based on how it's been prepared. Nobody's thinking. Nobody's like, okay, I see he's throwing a lot of leg kicks. If he throws another leg kick, I'm going to hit him. You talk to young, high-performing athletes, and you show them after, they're like, oh shit, yeah, you know what, I kind of could feel that he was leaning that way, but none of it was conscious. They'll see it after and they'll recognize it. It's something that I call it, I don't know if this is an accurate term, I've never heard it specifically, but it probably exists if we Google it in some other paradigm. I call it algorithmic thinking. You're not thinking, your brain starts running sorting algorithms, bubble sort and other types of sorting algorithms that exist, to catalog the threats and then use that information to spit out an action, none of which you are in control of. You're almost watching it happen. Once you know that, then we start to feel silly discussing it from the third person. We're like, well, this guy's all about volume, and if he gets a lot of punches on this guy, but if he can close the distance, all of that is very, very spectator-based observations. It's not rooted in truth. It's not rooted in the experience. So, but all this stuff is very, very nerdy. It's truth. My job, as I see it now, is to slowly bring a little more and more of the real truth of what's happening, without judgment. I'm not mad, or I'm not sad, or I don't have any personal attachment to the fact that we are currently describing something improperly, and that's not anybody's fault. It's just what we're doing. We're humans. We see something, we try to explain it. We explain it. The problem with our explanation is we have 5 or 10% of the information. So we're explaining it as if that 5 or 10% of the information is 100% of the information, right? So my job, as I see it, because I get to do this, I've created a scenario in which I get to do this my way. And what makes me happy is over the next 10 or 20 or 25 years, as long as I'm healthy and able to do it, is to slowly be able to say, actually, this is sort of what's happening. And here's why, and here's what that feels like. And, and not, it won't be natural. A lot of people prefer things to be just how they are, even if, whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's limited or perfect or imperfect, they don't necessarily care a lot. There's a certain amount of people who just don't want change. And so that's a challenge. But it's okay. Like, shit, again, like I get to do what I love all day. So, these challenges they're not super stressful. They're just factual. They're just what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think within sort of combat sports and any sport is you'll see a lot of top performers excel when dealing with those emotional states. They still have them, and they understand them, they accept them, and then it helps them excel rather than kind of either trying not
Uh-huh.
to acknowledge them and just going in there kind of
Mm.
like a robot, and then before they know it, they're KO'd on the floor because they haven't had that kind of fight or flight experience. You know what I mean? That fight
Yeah.
and used it in a positive way. I mean, you see people like Conor McGregor look cool as a cucumber when they go in the octagon,
Hmm.
and they look
Yeah.
composed all the time.
Yeah.
And you think, how can you be
But
so
that
composed?
guy is lit.
Yeah.
He is burning inside, but he appears it. Yeah. So what you're saying, I believe to be true with as much knowledge as we have so far. I think everything you said is not only accurate, but I think we can extrapolate it into life.
Mm.
And that is, if we put everything on the table and deal with reality, this is all the information we know, and this is what it means. This is what we can do about it, and this is what we can't do about it. It sort of disarms a lot of it. So if you go, I'm going to be scared, it's going to be heavy, everybody's going to be looking, uh, I won't be able to feel my fingers in those moments. Once you acknowledge this will happen, if I lose, it may mean this to certain people. What does that actually mean to my life? What does that mean to me? How do I, you acknowledge it all, you lay it on the table, you can deal with it.
Mm.
What you don't do, and that is Connor or anybody else fighting or life. Whether it's a job or a relationship or, your business or whatever, if you lay it all on the table and you look at it honestly, and it's difficult to do this, what we have to train ourselves to do is not judge things, just see things, not judge them. It's like, this means this. No, it doesn't mean anything. It is this. This is this. Look at what is. Not applying meaning to it, not applying judgment or opinion to it. Just what is. It's scary. It's hard. It's heavy. I could lose. I could be embarrassed. People could mock me. What does all that mean to me? Acknowledge it. Get ready with it, and then accept it
Mm.
and do it anyways. The opposite is put it all in a little box, press it all, close it all up, and put it away. It's like, oh no, there's no chance I'm going to lose. I fucking got this guy. I'm way better than this guy. I could not lose. I'm here to win. Like, once you start doing that, it's impossible that I lose. He could never break me. Once you start doing that, you've acknowledged nothing. Of
Yeah.
course he could. What if he's stronger than you thought? What if he's better? What if you break your leg? What if you break your neck? What if, somebody parachutes into the ring? That sounds like a joke, but that actually happened.
Mm.
Google man parachutes into boxing ring. It really fucking happened.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen
yeah,
that?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you say that, it sounds like a joke. That really happened. Like, if that happened, fucking anything can happen. So acknowledge all the things out of your control, accept them, and do it anyways. And that is the truth of everything. It's like, you can't, and so many things come with that. It's like, what if I lose? Okay, you will lose. And then what? Well, Eddie Alvarez lost to Conor McGregor. Eddie realized that days and weeks later, his wife loved him, his kids loved him, his family loved him. He had his health. He was still a former champion. He still had all the adventures of his life. He still had everything. And the opinions of the people who are spectators in life over time have to not matter to you. They have to. This is something that must be accomplished if you're going to do anything in your life. Once you remove that one, that removes a big one. It's like, yeah, people are going to fucking make fun of McNugget. So what? Who are these people? You must weigh it. You know, I pity people who are mad or express negative opinions all the time. It must be incredibly painful, because what's happening generally, well-adjusted, happy people don't spend very much time talking about how much Conor McGregor sucks, or even politics, or any of these things. So, you know, they spend time doing things that give them joy, or the learning or experience or change or knowledge or fun or a break, all these things. Well-adjusted people spend almost no time hating fucking Conor or Habib or fucking Brendan Schaub or whoever. Like, so why would anyone do that? Generally, they see the world as a very unfair and unforgiving place. They think that, you know, they're trying to make sense of the world around them, and they see stress and fear and anxiety. And then they see Conor McGregor, and what they could see is he was just some guy from a small town in Ireland who just, through a perspective and hard work, created a life for himself. Instead, they see that guy had all the advantages and I have none. Fuck him. He sucks. I feel pain for those people. And what you cannot do if you're going to try to accomplish anything in your life is you must give them no power. There's only two true possible things. Let's say somebody hates your podcast. Somebody fucking Robin Black sucks, whatever, right? Let's say somebody. There's one of two things that happen. So I made 900 breakdowns in the last 3 years. To truly know I suck, to really, with any type of information, to be knowledgeable enough to do it, one would have to think you'd have to consume 20% of my work, right? So that would be what? 180 breakdowns. So one, if you say Robin Black sucked and you didn't consume 180 breakdowns, and of course you didn't, you think he sucks, then you don't know anything about his work, right? If somebody says your podcast sucks, and you know you've made 30 of them, they better have seen 7, and they didn't see 7 because they made a decision that you suck. So they say you suck, but they actually don't know what you do. They have no information about actually what you do. So that opinion has no relevance. It should have no relevance anyways, because you don't know who they are or what they know. The other thing is, maybe they did watch 180 breakdowns or 30 of your things. If they did, there's no fucking way they actually hate it. No normal human being would watch 180 of something if they hated it. They watch it, they hate it for some internal reason of their own. And if people just, you know, and that's, you just can't. Like, it just, your life is too valuable. Your time is too valuable. You know, your dreams are too valuable to have somebody who just is too scared to chase theirs affect you. You know, and so as a result, the Conors of McGregors of the world, or although some of them you do see them affected. You know, you do, like, you know. John Jones sometimes gets mad that people don't like him. Like, some of them do, but it's over time that you get rid of that. Your life is too valuable to have somebody else's pain about their, you know, the unfairness of their life affect you. You just can't do it, you know. So you remove that, and all of a sudden, one of the fears of losing to Anthony Pettis or losing to Jose Aldo, you know. But on the other hand, some of the guys who lost to Conor, Poirier early, changed. He's a very different guy than he was. We all are different than we were. Jose, and a lot of them, when they lost, part of the what made them tense up was the added pressure of losing to this fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Like, all of my people will be so mad if I lose to this asshole. I need to destroy him. I need to kill him. That's part of what he tries to create in you, right? He's trying to create the consequences of success and failure having so much weight that you don't perform normally. And for him, you know, there'll be times, I'm sure he drinks too much whiskey these days, who knows, you know, but there'll be times that he will respond negatively to people. But much of the time, you know, the truth is the wolf can't care what the sheep think.
Yeah.
And much of the world, and it's our job, if you care, it's your job to every now and again see if you can edge people towards positivity. I believe that's important. But you know, just you're this the judgment of the people who are in the stands, whether you win or lose a fight, has to have no bearing on you. And you have to extrapolate that into your podcast. You have to extrapolate that into whatever it is you do, because you know your life is so thrilling to pursue the things you pursue. You certainly can't be discouraged by somebody who's mad at life. You
Yeah.
know, so
I think
you know,
I think with the only person that I don't think felt the weight of the situations with Connor were Nate, even though because he won the first fight, lost the
yeah,
second, and obviously Khabib just went in there
yeah,
and
yeah,
just did his thing. And I think those are
yeah,
the only two
yeah,
people that it hasn't
yeah,
necessarily like affected and had this weight
yeah.
on. Because Nate just seems like the same
So
person.
yeah, yeah, I know. Nate fucking Diaz is an incredible combat human, and his brother too. I'll throw my thought on that in a second, but I think Khabib was affected, but I think it lit him even fiercer. Like,
True.
the that is the risk you take when you're gonna fire them up and fire them up and fire them up and hope that they get so lit it makes them, you know, it makes them make some error. You're hoping for them to have some type of strategic error, and Khabib did, and that is jump over the fence and get fined lots of money.
Yeah.
But that was after he fucking murdered that guy. So he did what he wanted to Khabib, and he did get a reaction. And this goes back to, you know, one of the like a simple cliche: be careful what you wish for. He got exactly what he wanted out of Khabib. Just not in the way that he wanted. He made him mad. He made him passionate and angry and driven and lit by rage and the desire to murder him. But Khabib's so good, it actually not only didn't make it harder for him. Also, bear in mind, this is something real. There's a push and a pull here. The bigger Connor gets, and the more you shrink, the bigger he gets, and the more you shrink, and the more you shrink, and it all feeds off each other. It's a dynamic. You know, 100 years in the future, we may understand some of the relationship between the minds.
Mm.
There may be things we don't see, but there is a dynamic that we don't have the verbiage to explain, but over time you see its reality. And you know, anybody who has seen thousands of boxing matches or wrestling matches or combat of any sort, or even large scale team sports, you see that as somebody, you know, there was a game, the Toronto Maple Leafs years ago, and I don't watch other sports, but they were in some game 7 of something in a playoff, and they were up like 4-1. And when it became 4-2, I suddenly could feel they're gonna lose this game 5-4. And it was in the last 2 minutes, and it happened because you just feel that as the confidence goes, and they start to shrink, and they start to panic, and they start to grow, and it's real. You've seen it 100 times. And when Connor can't make you shrink, he doesn't perform as well either.
Mm.
You reverse break him through your mental strength. And I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that with judgment or insult. It's, you know, just from an analytical, imperfectly spoken analytical thing. When Nate wouldn't fold, Connor couldn't be his best, although, you know, he fucking looked pretty good in the first couple of rounds. When Khabib wouldn't, you know, wouldn't either shrink or overextend or do the things that Connor's trying to get, Connor didn't continue to grow in confidence either. Those things are all connected. They're all connected. We're all connected. People are connected. You know, be nice to a cab driver, he'll be nice to the next person who will go out into the world and be nice to somebody. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just what it is to be human. And in a fight, it's just two humans.
I mean, the one case it did work was with, I guess, Jose Aldo. You know, he like was pissing
Yeah,
him off so much,
yeah,
doing all these things, saying all these things, and
yeah,
then lit that fire in his belly. And Jose Aldo went out there with pure rage and just ran towards him and
yeah,
got starched. You know, and it was
yeah.
done.
It was also, that was all new. Like pushing it to that limit, seeming irrational. behaving what seemed, nobody acts this way. What's he saying about Brazil? What's he saying about my family? Why is he touching me? All of this stuff was so bizarre and unexpected. Everything works better the first time. Everything works better. And over time, the more familiar, we all sit around and people are analyzing it and coaches are discussing it. And when something is that incredible, every fight team in the world that night is sitting around together, having drinks. I was in Vegas when he starts, Aldo, and everybody around. What happened? Why did it happen? What does it mean? Then what? And everybody starts thinking about it. And as soon as they do, some of them are going to be way off on a tangent, completely incorrect, not understand what's happening, project all kinds of shit based on stuff they don't understand. Others are going to start reading books and reading about the mind and reading about, trying deception and reading about manipulation and reading about if you go and you read about lion taming doesn't feel like there's a big connection to what Conor McGregor did until you see certain hand gestures, certain behaviors. This is shit that people use in other areas other than fighting. I mean, Bruce Lee brought fencing in to fighting. Conor McGregor brought posture and physicality and mental manipulation. Yes, it had all been done before, but not in the way he did it. But after it's brought in there, the world is shit. You talk to Dean Thomas or Mike Brown or Duke Rufus or fucking Mike Perry or like any of these fighters or coaches, all they want to, something new happens, they got to figure it out immediately. They might not figure it out immediately, but the act of starting to try opens up understanding right across the organism of fighting itself. And so eventually, whatever you're doing, unless it continues to change, as people understand it, eventually gets exposed. Exposed is the wrong word because people project that as some negative thing, that somehow it was flawed. When it works, it wasn't flawed. It's, like, I'm trying to think. Ronda didn't become exposed. Ronda was fucking brilliant in the paradigm as it was understood at the time with all the moving parts. And then when that thing changed, she no longer was dominant. She was not exposed. And somebody would say, yeah, she was exposed. Her striking sucked. Her striking was irrelevant. There was nothing to expose. Like, if you have a weakness and that weakness, or some flaw or some ability, some opening or something later, but that thing never exists, it's not an exposure. It didn't matter. It was irrelevant. Ronda would throw a few punches. She'd close the distance. She'd fucking get a hold of you. She'd whip you to the ground. She'd fucking beat you up or submit you or whatever. Didn't matter. There wasn't, the hole or the weakness is something that we try to suggest somehow undermines her greatness in those moments. It doesn't. It can't. We can want it to if we don't like her for some reason, or we prefer to see people not be great. We can try to. There are undertones often of people that if they don't feel that they can be great, they don't. It's rooted in a very simple principle. The fixed mindset says, I am this and that's all I'll ever be. And the growth mindset says, wherever I work, I'll get better. Those two things are so fundamentally different that everything about your life changes based on what you are. If you have a fixed mindset, you're like, I'm poor, I'm dumb, this is unfair, I'm whatever you think you are, and you're that forever, you can hate people and hope to find them to fail because it's unfair that they're successful. If you have a growth mindset, you look at somebody and go, what if I worked really hard on fighting? What if I worked really hard on playing piano? What if I worked really hard on learning to, edit something? Or what if I went to university? What if I lost weight? And like, a growth mindset says, wherever I apply effort, I will improve. And if you have that, you see great people and you aspire to be like them. If you do not have that, you see great people and you hope for them to collapse or fail, or you hope to find ways to explain that they're not actually that great. And it's really rooted in that. It's really rooted in that the perception of your own world and the people around you and the people that you see on television and the people you see, on the street is rooted in your belief as to whether or not you can be more than you are tomorrow by working on that. It is one of the biggest anchors to a happy life or a miserable life. Is, do you believe that you can improve yourself with work, and do you believe you're capable of that work? And if the answer is yes, you're not afraid of anything. Your life will always be getting better. You know, as
Yeah.
you make any kind of effort. I mean, you know, uh, will 400 people watch your podcast? Will 1100? Will 63? Doesn't really matter. If your podcast is better, you work harder, you improve all the time, it gets better. You get healthier, more focused. You get better at finding people. Whatever it is, it'll grow, and it'll grow.
Yeah.
You just know that it will, because you're putting in the effort. And when you decide not to put in the effort, put it somewhere else, because you meet a really beautiful woman, or you find a job that you really like and you put the effort there, then your podcast won't grow. And your life becomes quite simple. It becomes an act of, where am I going to put effort to improve? And if I put effort there and I'm super patient, it'll get better. And then you don't hate the Ronda Rouseys and the Conor McGregors of the world. You admire them and you strive to achieve.
I mean, my sort of little highlight and what helped me kind of try and get better and invest more into my podcast was Joe Rogan obviously retweeted one of my episodes
Cool.
with
Fuck.
Mick West and some other guy. They were talking about 9/11 and the conspiracy and debunking it and everything. And he retweeted it, and I was like, oh shit, right, okay, that's cool, like brilliant. It got me
Yeah.
a fair few views, and I was like, I need to
Yeah.
up my game now, because I'm
Big time.
get that traffic.
Joe Rogan's the fucking man. Like, I can't even believe you're telling me this right now. Like, I don't even understand how this guy has the time to be as sort of generous and encouraging as he does. It just doesn't make sense. He's got a family. He's a fucking touring comedian. He commentates the UFC, and he puts up like 8 podcasts a week or some crazy shit like that. I have no idea how he has time to do that. But part of the reason I said, yeah, let's do your podcast, is because Joe, and I do that often, as one, who knows, I get to make a new friend. That's wicked.
Yeah.
2, it's Friday at the end of my day. I'm going for dinner with friends in 45 minutes. This is a break. I get to make a friend and chat. And, this is, and 3 is, Joe has been so generous to me. It is incumbent on me to be generous with others. Like, it's responsibility. That guy's the fucking best. It's unreal. Like, how much he fucking, like, it's strange how, like, he encourages people, and, but it's beautiful. It really is. It should teach us all to be that way. But, again, you can look at Joe and see the world as unfair. Joe's rich and successful and gets to do cool shit. Or you can look at Joe and go, holy fuck, that guy was like poor, working his ass off, trying to accomplish something. And yes, it seems impossible where he is, but it seemed impossible where he is to Joe too. When he started, it was tiny, 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 tiny steps, tens of thousands of tiny steps in improvement. And once you start on that journey, life fucking gets better all the time. But that dude is the fucking man. It's crazy. That guy, like, was texting me from it, like, on vacation to, like, try to help when I had my Instagram page taken down the other day. Like, that's unreal. It doesn't surprise me that you're turning, one of your encouraging moments was Joe Rogan, but at the same time, it kind of does. Because I don't even know how he can do that much like that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember viewing, because obviously he was my inspiration to start a podcast. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to try, as I'm sure it was for many others. I remember his first podcast, he had this shitty camera with one of his friends sitting in front of some shady computer, and they had like a snow effect going over the top of it.
Amazing. Fucking amazing. I haven't seen the number one, but I can just imagine it, like a weak psychedelic kind of. Yeah, fuck, that's hilarious.
It was funny, honestly.
So let me throw this in here. When you called me earlier today, your headset wasn't working.
Yeah.
Right. And you couldn't hear. And right away, I was like, fuck, I've been there. Like, I've been there. That's why I was like, don't panic. Don't freak out. If anything, that the truth of these things is very humanizing, and it reminds everybody, nobody that you see doing anything just was born doing that thing. They all did it. It was hard. It was weird. It was setbacks. It was challenges. You know, they had moments of fucking panic where they couldn't believe like what was happening. Um, I was one of my very first pieces that I was doing was me and Vanderlei Silva, and there was and he was there, and I hadn't met him, and I didn't know, and they had a problem with the camera, and I was going to play Yahtzee with him. It ended up being fine, but I was freaking out, and my reaction at that time, again, I'm a different person every fucking. I hope to be a different person tomorrow than I am today, and by doing that over time, you change a lot. Hopefully for the better. I mean, you're going to change one way or the other. If you're making an effort, it'll be for the better. If you're not, it probably won't. But at the time, I was feeling rage. Like, how the fuck is, like, what's happening? Why is everything, holy shit, like, and I didn't fortunately show it, and we ended up doing the piece, and it was fine. But as soon as you were like, holy shit, my headphones aren't working,
Yeah.
it snapped me back to that. And like, Joe Rogan's the best in the world at something. When I'll guarantee you, when he sees a young comedian start to like stiffen and not do well, he had to go through that. There's no way you can be as good as this good unless you do it. And it's such, if people just understood that, they wouldn't be afraid that like, oh my God, I'm going to fail. My headphones don't work, or I'll stiffen on stage, or fucking the camera's fucked with Vanderlei. It becomes normal. It becomes this thing that you're so thankful for after that you had it and you survived it and it improved you. And again, this is another mindset thing. The idea that like, you know, setbacks or failures or like, you know, curveballs, they're scary and they're painful and they're weird, but they're gifts. Like you're going to have them.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have one in a good situation that you can get through it, then you're very thankful to have it. Like, you know, I work in TV still in Canada and a fair bit in different places, and I'm experienced now. And experience just doesn't mean that I know the words to say about fighting. Experience means if a light goes off or my mic falls or something falls from a thing or the host faints or whatever, I'm going to be more comfortable doing that. That's the real experience. Or like, you know, your interview guest doesn't show up or you can't hear the thing. Like that is what it is to get good at something, is to have shit happen.
Yeah.
Like to be good at anything is just to have had enough shit happen that now you can handle the shit that happens. Like that is what it is to improve at something. You know, now I make my primary thing, and it's not the thing that pays me. I give it away for free, but it is my primary thing for many reasons. Is I make 1 minute breakdowns. They've been viewed 300 or 400 million times. And again, fucking Joe Rogan has a lot to do with that. When he retweets one, it'll be seen 500,000 times, right? But doing 900 or 1,000 of those, the act of doing them just makes you better. Your flow is better. Your understanding is better. Your comfort is better. There is no substitute. And if you want to get good at anything, all you do is do it a lot. Don't care about the numbers. Don't care about the results. Don't care about the audience. You know, care about the audience, but don't care about their hatred or their disdain, or, you know, people who are not doing podcasts telling you what you should do different. I mean, some feedback is valuable, and definitely care about the people. But for the most part, if you do 90 podcasts this year, many things will happen. You'll get way the fuck better at everything. Like, and you're good at this already, but you'll get better, and you can always get better. And you'll get better at getting people. You'll get more comfortable after you do 80, and you've had 27 large guests, and you've had fucking John Jones. You get a big one here, and 7 small ones, and then a huge one, and then 27 that nobody watches. You'll get better at all the skills, and you'll develop an audience. You know, there's no reason to not, like, and people say, how should I get into like MMA, journalism, or how should I get into podcasting? The only answer that makes any sense is start immediately. Don't do any more planning unless you're filming that planning. Like, start immediately. And if that your first podcast is check 1, 2, oh fuck, I don't know how to do this podcast. Wait a second, is anyone listening? Oh man, I'm live. Here's my new camera. Somebody will be like, it's really fucking crazy. I watched this guy try to do a podcast. And 39 later, you'll be able to look back, and not only will you laugh at that and be able to gauge your improvement, but you'll be proud of it. You'll be deeply proud of it. You'll be deeply fucking proud of it. And no matter what I get to do over the next couple of years, it'll all be rooted in the fact that when I got up the next day, I made another breakdown. And later that day, I made another one. And then later, I made another one. And the next day, I made 4. And after 4 months, I had made 113. And then I looked back after 350, and I was like, well, some of them are pretty good, but a lot of them are not that good. And then at 600, I was like, I think I'm a little better, and my mic is better. And I learned, like, you got to do fucking thousands of anything. But if you do, you will get better. You will get, in Thailand, the Thais will fight like 30 times a year, some of them, and they'll train twice a day. And none of it, their heart rates don't go up when they do it later. It's not so, when you fight 3 times a year, you're like, holy fuck, it's fight week. And like, now everybody's around. What if it's all so stressful. If you fight 3 times, so let's say you fought 3 times this month, and I fought 3 times, I'm going to fight 3 times this year. By month 3, you fought 9 times and I fought 1. By month 6, you fought 18 times as I go to do my second. Like, there's no fucking comparison to your comfort level and your skill level and what you do. It's like everything is done through the doing of the thing. There's so few mysteries to a lot of this. It's just, but we make a lot of what it is we're scared. A lot of what we're scared about is some assholes will say we suck. Once you remove that, they don't, the saddest thing is to be a spectator at life. And a lot of things are going that way. One time we would sit in an arena and we watch football or, fighting or whatever. But now, and then we'd have an opinion. Oh my God, the quarterback was good, or he wasn't, or this thing happened, or next time we're going to go get him. But as we started to shoot everything, people now do that with politics. President sucks, or the president's awesome, or those guys are stupid, or whatever. And then they start doing it with Twitter. It's like, Brendan Schaub's show isn't very good, and or Brendan Schaub's the greatest. I fucking love that guy. And then we do it with, John Jones's Twitter, his Instagram stories. Like, you are now becoming spectators at life itself. You're becoming the spectator of life. We cannot do that. You can do that, but I can't imagine this was what you were put on earth to do. I can't imagine this is really the purpose. The purpose is to do. So if the spectators of life are sitting around judging fucking Brendan Schaub's show. I bring up Brendan Schaub because I fucking love Brendan Schaub. I love that guy's drive, and I love that guy's passion, and I love that guy's work ethic, and I love that he does it, and I love that he doesn't give a fuck, and I love that he does it again and again until he gets better, and then he applies the effort of a professional athlete to becoming a comedian. People who have never done anything in their life will sit around and say, Brendan Schaub sucks at comedy. It's like, that is being a spectator of life.
Yeah.
Brendan Schaub is doing comedy, leaving his house to pursue greatness in whatever field he can, and you are sitting there in the stands talking about whether or not his performance of the thing that he's living is good. If one person hears that and goes, holy fuck, am I in the stands of other people's journeys, having opinions and judgments and hatred or love or am I just in the stands? If one person thought that and said, I can't do that anymore, then I would be fucking thrilled, because there's no way that's what we're supposed to be doing. There's no way we're supposed to be sitting in the stands, cheering or jeering or arguing over the performance of other people. There's just no way that's what we're supposed to be doing here.
Yeah, I think with that is you've got the people that will sit there and spectate, and the beautiful thing is the person doing the performance is only going to get better because they're living that journey. They're only going to grow. They'll realise maybe I bombed a little bit there, but we can improve that, and we're going to get better.
That's right.
Whereas the spectator's sitting there going, I'm going to go home and put my feet up and do fuck all and probably talk about how shit that was.
Yep. And you know what? Being a bit of a spectator is a part of life. So Brendan was our example as he's going out and living his life. Sometimes he goes home and watches Netflix and he's a spectator of a Netflix show
Mm.
because he's fucking earned that. Like he lived his life and he earned that. You know, some people love their sports team and they work they're living their life and they're living their adventure and they're taking risks and they're growing and they're changing, and then they take a break and they watch their sports team. And if somebody is really truly living and pursuing their, actualizing what they're capable of, and what they like to do in their spare time is say the JB podcast sucks, great. It's when all you're doing is sitting there in the stands while other people are doing the world, and you go off to a job you hate, to pay for shit you don't even want, to sit around and criticize other people. It's sad. It's sad. We have to do something about it. It is a reaction to a culture that's a bit fucked. If you get trapped in a few things, you start watching the news, you get mad at the news. So, and while you're getting mad at the news, there's commercials for Doritos, and they're delicious, so you eat them, and Coke, and candy, and maybe even some kind of pill for restless leg syndrome, because in America they're selling you pills too. And you do all that, and then now you're lazy, and so you watch more news and you get more mad. Like, this is a trap, and it can be broken out of. Most of these, the way that you go from that to, you're not going to go to Ronda Rousey overnight, or whoever, whatever it is you can look up to. But what you do is you slowly start to get a little exercise, and then you slowly start to turn the TV off and fight the addiction of the outrage of getting mad at the TV. And then you improve your diet slightly, and then you've made so much change that you feel amazing, and you start to adventure through life. But yeah, it's a weird one. I do feel bad for people. I do now. I live in a bit of a bubble because I'm creating and I'm sending it to people who like it. So I'm in a bit of a bubble. I'm told that there are small sort of cultures and little sort of environments where, like, people spend a lot of time disliking my work. But to me, it would make no sense to spend any time there. Like, I can't, like, what
Yeah.
the fuck would I be doing there, right? Where I will max out my 12 hours a day sharing on my Twitter and my Instagram and my YouTube and wherever else. And, yes, I'm in a bubble, but if in that bubble 300 million people watch what I make and enjoy it, why the fuck would what do I want to go somewhere else where somebody dislikes it and have them change it, so the 300 people try to change it, or recommend I somehow change it so that the 300 million who enjoyed it don't like it? Like, it makes no sense, right? So we do end up stuck in a world where, we're around other like-minded people. But if those like-minded people are very positive and the world around you is positive, it's great. If the like-minded people are very negative and most of the shit you're talking about is angry and upset and outraged, then it's a tough place to live. And if the people around you are negative and the culture you're hanging out in is negative and stuff, then it's not your fault that you ended up there, but it is up to you to find your way out of it. It is up to you to find your way out of it, because fuck, the world's a good place.
Mm. One more question for you, because I know you've got to rush off. How did you and Joe Rogan become friends? Like, what was the journey there?
So this is fucking crazy to even tell you, but fuck, I can't even, like, it even sounds stupid to say, but Joe Rogan reached out to me. He followed me on Twitter. So maybe for sure 6 years ago, maybe longer. He followed me on Twitter, and I was like, holy fuck, Joe Rogan followed me on Twitter. That's crazy. He knows who I am, because I loved his work, and he was, as as brilliant as a commentator, and I'm like, I looked up to the guy in many ways before I'd ever met him. He followed me. I for sure I followed him already, but he followed me, and then he liked or retweeted a couple of breakdowns I did. Probably, I've been doing these sort of breakdowns like I do now since maybe 2012 or 13. So that's 6-7 years. So I better be good at them by now. Like, I work hard and like to, and it's not just what do you know and what are you saying. The comfort of trying to find ways to express this in a meaningful way that's meaningful to me and anyone who watch it. That's not as natural as it might sound, because I could be too excited, or it's just very common with me. I'm too passionate. But so anyways, like 2013 or 2014, I get a DM like days later, and he's just like, "This guy's awesome. I love your breakdowns." And I'm like, and I think, I could be wrong, but I think he said, "I'm a fan of your work." And I remember looking, going, "No, Joe Rogan's a fan of my work." Like, it was either that or some other word where, like, I literally was looking at it going, "That guy fucking likes my work." And then we chatted, and it was, I think, about Mamed Khalidov, who is one of the great fighters, really, of the last 10 years from Poland, a Chechen fighter from Poland, and genius. Like, the way he was performing at the time in KSW was brilliant. And I did a breakdown or two, and he started talking about him. And somewhere in there, he was like, "Hey, man, next time you're in LA, you should come on my podcast." I'm guessing this is 2013 or 2014. And I'm like, yeah, it might be. And, like, there was 2 or 3 things that like were related to work that I could do in LA. And so I was like, there, if you're fortunate enough to be progressing in your field, and your field is in entertainment, there's gonna be reasons to go to New York, LA, and in fighting to Vegas. So I was like, yeah, I've been planning to go. Maybe I could. And so I contacted a person I was going there to do something with, and I was like, yeah, the 15th. So I sent him a thing, and I was like, yeah, I could be there on the 15th or the 18th. And I'm out with my family, and or my wife's family. She was away at the time, but they're my family too. And I'm looking on my phone, and my little Twitter thing comes up, and I click on it, and it's like, "Yeah, bro, let's do it." And it was on my fucking birthday. Joe Rogan was like, "Come on my birthday." He was like, "Come, I love your work. Come on my podcast." We became friends, which is insane to say. But as somebody who like really admired the man, we became friends because he liked my shit, which is wild. And no, you don't become friends just because somebody likes your shit. He invited me to be on his podcast. We hung out. At that time, I think he found me funny. I think he found me to be an odd character, and maybe I'm an odd character. I don't know. To me, everybody's odd, but he seemed to find me amusing, and I didn't know what Uber was at the time. He sent me in an Uber back to downtown LA because I didn't even know how to work my phone. I'd never mind edit fucking videos. I still worked at a TV channel. He sent me back downtown, and he said, "Here, take my cell phone number." And I was like, "No way, I got fucking Joe Rogan's cell phone number." This is like 5 years ago. And there was something happening at work, and I literally just reached out and I asked him. I was like, "Hey man, can I ask you for some advice?" And then at that time, he said, "Send me some of your stuff." I sent it to him, and he sent me back a text. Like maybe 40 minutes later, he said, "I sent it to Dana. He's freaking out. He asked for your phone number, so I gave it to him." And then on the Monday after that, somebody from the UFC called me and said, "Let's meet. We want to bring you onto our company." I went to Vegas. I met with Dana and other executives at the time, and they said, we're moving you and your wife to LA. You're going to be on UFC Tonight every single week, and you're going to be on our pre and post shows doing your breakdown. Welcome aboard. Introduce them to our partners. And they said you'll have a contract in 3 days, and that was 4.5 years ago. And companies work weird ways. There's in and out of different things, and things go up and down. And at that, it was like 3 days, and about 8 days later, there was like, yeah. So we were going to do a deal with you and Fox, and in the week since, the vice president of Fox, who's crazy about your work, he's getting moved out of that position. So we've just got to wait on this for a while. And that wait on this for a while turned into a bunch of different work for them, which later turned into their company got sold to Endeavor, and from that day forward, it's I'm not super connected to their company, which is very strange. But over time, what you realize is like, and I am certainly not one of these people who's like everything happens for a reason. I'm just not. But you learn and gain things from every point, and there is no way that if I was in that system 4 or 5 years ago, that I would have grown and changed and learned and explored and found joy in the things that I do. I would be very much more to the middle. And maybe I would be happy there too. I wouldn't know the difference. But instead, I'm sort of I'm on the fringes, experimenting and trying to innovate and trying to shatter paradigms as best I can. And it's not always good and it won't always be appreciated by everybody, but I'm fucking thrilled to do it. So it ended up working out better than it ever probably could. And who knows, fucking, we could speak in 4 months and I'm working for fucking one championship in Singapore, or working for the UFC, or, started two different, like, now to me, the non-structure of being inside a company like that is so appealing, but at the same time, I wouldn't rule anything out. But anyways, the long and short of it was, Joe was a fucking generous guy who liked my work, who helped me. And over time, we just became friends. He invited me to dinner with a bunch of his friends once. Joey Diaz, fucking Jim Norton, and the world's Cameron, the world's most famous bow hunter, and all these people. And then we've got together a few other times, and we're in touch all the time. And he just fucking told 60,000 people to follow my Instagram last week. Like, he's a fucking meeting that man, or having that man decide that he was a fan of my work, and then later becoming a generous friend and mentor. Like, the dude has changed my life, honestly. He really has. And I certainly will never take it for granted. I will always be grateful. I'm not saying if I have a boy that I'll name him Joe, but I might if I had a girl. Like, Joe would be a good name for a girl, but I don't know. No, he's a fucking, he is one of the great human beings in the world, and that is the truth. And you know that.
Yeah,
You know
I've
that
experienced
firsthand.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the conversation we had. And hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
Yep.
Is there
Yep.
anything you'd like to add?
Mid to late September. Get a hold of me late August or early September. Let's do it again, mid to late September. No, you know what? I've enjoyed just hanging out and chatting with you. I really have.
Cool, man.
Yeah, and you didn't ask for my feedback, but I feel like it would be thoughtful to offer it. But you are very, very, very comfortable and encouraging to just sort of let people speak, or ask them to speak, or encourage them to speak, and that's rare. I do it and it's not good. It's something I need to improve on, and many other people do it. We want to get in our question, or we want to get in our thing, or we want to, like, show, put a thought into there. I'm bad for that. A lot of people are, and you're very natural that way. It is a gift. Don't take that and go too far that direction
Yeah.
either, and just never say a word. But it what it does is it's encouraging, it's generous, and it's thoughtful, and it is sort of without ego, and yeah, it's not natural for most people. So definitely that's something that I noticed from hanging out with you. It's not normal to just sit there and babble a lot, but when somebody is relaxed and comfortable and they make you feel comfortable, you can do it. So, but thank you. I really enjoyed it. I do hope people check out my new Instagram. It's at Robin Black Martial Arts. My other one was taken down. I shared Jorge Masvidal's flying knee, taken from a fan's cell phone, but I guess, I assumed that was okay, but it probably belongs to the UFC in some way, even though a fan took it. They took it in their building, so who knows? So I didn't mean to, undermine them, but I think I did. So I guess, I don't know if a bot took me down or they did. I don't know, but I have a new one. And again, generous fucking Joe Rogan is trying to get them to withdraw the strike and get my other one back. If they do, this is my thought. If they do, I'm going to turn this one, Robin Black Martial Arts, into kind of more of a community. I'll definitely put right in there. Joe Rogan brought a lot of us together. I'm going to put that right in the thing. So my other one's at Robin Black MMA, but the new one is at Robin Black Martial Arts. But thanks, man. Thank you for making me feel so comfortable, and let's do this again late September.
Cheers for the kind words, man. I really appreciate that a
Yeah,
lot.
you're very welcome.
I'll send you a message through Skype on this, just to keep in contact with the link of the video and stuff like that,
Sounds
and
good.
just to get a few words off you. But yeah, it'll only be through message. But yeah, really appreciate it, man. Thank you
Yeah,
for your time.
no problem.
You take care.
Enjoy, man.
Have a nice
Yeah,
meal,
you
man.
too. Thank you. Bye.